leaky air fittings. Oops. What's going on, guys? Thrills on the block back again. We're in the garage with a Mercury Cougar, and we are going to start our prep work on getting ready to paint the engine bay and take care of the undercoating for the body of the car. I'm going to start up here on the front, which I've done a little bit of prep work, as you can see here, because this area is scuffed up. This is POR-15 that's already on the vehicle. So I'm going to prep the POR-15. We're going to come in with some epoxy primer. My reason for that is there are areas where the POR-15 is a little bit thin, like here. And then some other areas like this edge where there's a little bit of burn through. And there are some areas down here where there was some metal that was a little bit bare. So we'll do a little bit of primer, and then we'll get our Raptor liner all over this. And then on the inside of the engine bay, we'll be taking care of some prep work and basically just going to scuff up all this POR-15 just so we can get our paint to stick. So we'll scuff it up, prime it, and then put our paint on. That way we'll have good adhesion, and that'll take care of making sure that all of this works well together. So if you didn't see the previous video on this vehicle, I'll put a link at the top of the screen to get you caught up. I'm taking care of all this prep work before I take care of the rest of the seam sealing, which is another reason that I'm using epoxy primer, because you cannot use Raptor liner over seam sealer. So I'm going to go ahead and epoxy prime everything, and then we'll be putting our Raptor liner on. I will also epoxy prime the engine bay so it will be ready for paint. Tools in my arsenal for this are a 5-inch DA, which I've got a few pads for. This is a green scuff pad. I've also got some red and some black scuff pads. I'll be using some 220, 150, and I think that's it. Yeah, just 220 and some 180 actually. Yeah, 220 and 180 for my surface prep. Now I've got a surface prep tool. This is just an angle grinder with a surface prep adapter. This is a 2-inch twist in. You just twist those like so, and they come out, and I've got an onslaught of these. So inside this case, I've got various grits, basically 60 all the way up to 240, I believe, and there's a black surface prep disc, and then I've got scuff pads. There's a red, some blues, some browns, got some greens in here, polishing stuff, all that kind of goodie. So I'm using a combination of these. I also have 2-inch DA and a 3-inch DA. So I'll show you the reason why I have all of these different tools, because I know you're like, 3 wheels, man, I don't have all this stuff. And you don't have to have all this stuff. It's taken a few years to acquire all of this. I always watch on Amazon for sales, because like this red one came from Amazon. This blue one actually came from, I think, Royal King or Tractor Supply. It was on clearance because the little locking lever was missing, and it cost me all of, I don't know, $8. So, and yeah, it's a really handy tool, and these heads are interchangeable, so you can replace those, which is cool. So I leave my 2-inch on there. This one I picked up on Amazon, comes with a 1, 2, and a 3-inch. I've got the 3-inch on there now, and the 3-inch is handy in places like here and down here on the frame, because typically your frame's about 3 inches, so it lets you get in there, lets you get into these spots here and there, and then over here in these little nooks and crannies. So handy. And then if you need something smaller, you got the 1-inch, or the 2-inch, I'm sorry. Yeah, you got the 2-inch here, which it gets in even smaller spots, as you can see. So you'll see me using a combination of these tools, and now you know why, because literally it fits right into, you know, spots where my 5-inch DA, which I have here, it just won't fit into these spots. It fits into other spots well, but it doesn't fit everywhere. So that's why I've got so many different little tools, and it takes a little bit of time to get this stuff together so you don't break the bank. But all together, I think, let's see, this is $100 probably. Yeah, probably about $100 for all of these, but I didn't buy them all at the same time. So you can spend $100 on a 5-inch or $100 on one of these. Probably not going to spend $100 on one of these. You can get these at Harbor Freight for like 14 or 15 bucks, I think, still, even now. This guy can be a little expensive, but like I said, I found this one on closeout. So if you shop around, you can get the tools pretty cheap, and then you have a really nice arsenal So when you tackle a big project like this, or any project where you have multiple sizes of spacing and sanding that you need to do, you can make it happen pretty seamlessly. Just have your papers and stuff ready and have your different size tools and go to town. Speaking of which, I'm going to put the camera on a tripod, get all these cords and air hoses out of the way because I was cleaning up something earlier today so I don't trip and kill myself in front of you guys, and I'm going to get to work. Knocked out quite a bit of work. Got the bottom prepped outside of the engine bay, the inside of the engine bay. I've got a little bit left to do over here on this side and down there, and then the back side of the radiator shroud. All this will have to be done by hand. And if you use POR-15, just so you're aware, if you decide you want to paint or rhino line or any of those things over top of POR-15, you've got to prep the surface after it dries. Got about a 4-hour window after you spray POR-15 in which you can add a top coat. If you don't, then you've got to prep it. So using 180 grit with a DA, we'll go through and sand everything down. Everything that I don't hit with the DA, I'll hit by hand, like these little small areas in here, and just some little nooks and crannies where we see shiny black paint at that's not been sanded. Leaky air fittings. Oops. But yeah, all that over there looks good. This looks good. This is all going to get epoxy primer, and then it'll get the color for the engine bay. Outside we'll get epoxy primer and Raptor liner. The underside will get Raptor liner as well. So I'm going through and prepping everything with POR-15 right now, and then I'll go through with a scuff pad, probably a green on my DA, and scuff everything up. That'll be about a 220 scuff, which will be good for the application. 180 scuff. What's green? Let's put the green grid on the screen. I don't remember off the top of my head. But we'll go through and prep all that up, and I got to prep this side here. We're going with Raptor liner in the trunk as well, so I got to go in here and scuff all of this area that was POR-15, and then I will scuff all the, I'm assuming this is epoxy primer on here, this gray. It looks like an epoxy primer instead of an etch primer because it's got a little bit of a sheen to it. So I could probably just scuff this epoxy primer and go straight to Raptor liner. However, if you have bare metal areas, like right there where that shiny metal is, it's always good to prime and then add your top coat. Raptor liner is good for small bits of bare metal, but I don't recommend large areas, and there's several areas of burn through where I was coming through with the DA, and since I was planning on priming the Raptor liner anyway, or since I was planning on priming before Raptor liner, my plan is just to go through here and go through the whole, any area where I'm applying Raptor liner, use epoxy primer, and then go top coat it with the Raptor liner. That's a lot of liners and primers, and yeah. Got a couple closeout panels for the engine bay. They're sitting right there. We gotta get those stripped and get those prepped, and they'll be Raptor liner on the outside, engine bay color on the inside. Get a nice clean transition that way. Let's see. And last but not least, we have an Aeromotive fuel cell or fuel tank, which will be going in this ride, and it will be painting the engine bay color. That is a matte black, low gloss black, something like that. So I'll prep this and get this painted as well, and then may Raptor line the bottom of this tank so it's consistent with the finish of the vehicle. I'm not 100% sure yet. The owner will be by this morning to drop off a couple more items, and we'll make the decision then on what the finish of this tank is going to be. Alright, I am going to get back to prep, because you guys know, as I said in my other videos, your prep work is your paint job. So get it right the first time. Don't skip your prep. Poor prep will yield poor results.